This is The Bro Show. Here's Brodie Brazil.
Stu, you were one of the first people to actually see the A's this season because you, spoke to them at spring training?
Spoke to them in spring, yes.
I won't ask you to reveal what your message was. Obviously, it seems like it's worked about halfway into the season. But honestly, back then, what was even your impression of what that group was capable of? And the more honest you can be, I think the better here.
Well, I'm going to be honest. When I saw the group, my first question is always, how good is the pitching going to be? Mm-hmm. That's the first thing that I think of. You'd have to remember at that point in time, their rotation was Manaea, Mangden, Triggs was in the rotation.
That's right.
At that time.
Gossett was in there, I think.
Gossett.
Yeah.
And Cotton got hurt.
Kendall Graveman. Who started opening day.
Right.
And we're almost forgetting about that now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what's forgotten is that Triggs was in the rotation.
That's right.
And so when I looked at the rotation, I thought at that time that Kendall Graveman was a great number one, based on how he had pitched throughout last year's season. Mangden, I wasn't sure how that was going to turn out, and then he comes out gangbusters when the season started. Manaea, I thought would take a step up, but I didn't think that the rotation was good enough in spring training to compete. I thought that they did a great job in improving the bullpen, but you still have to remember that Santiago Casilla was down there.
It's a different bullpen then to now. Yeah, it improved. It improved to spring training, but it's also clearly improved a step beyond that now.
Yeah, it's much improved now. So I looked at the bullpen, and then when I looked at the everyday players, I thought that the everyday players were young, and I thought that they would come out and they would compete and play hard. I am a firm and strong believer that your team goes as far as your pitching goes. And so when I looked at the pitching staff, I thought that it was going to be a long year. I just didn't think that there was enough maturity with Mangden, Manaea, or Kendall Graveman for that matter. I mean, Kendall Graveman leading your staff was the logical answer to your staff leader. But it's not a rotation that I thought would put these guys in position to compete.
So the other thing that you'd have to throw into consideration is the A's were the last place team in the AL West the prior 3 seasons, which I think even also still goes forgotten right now when you talk about a team that's contending for the West, handful of games behind Houston, and have been now for a couple weeks' time. Like to make that transformation, to me, is incredible so quickly. I mean, you typically, and you know this as a general manager in baseball, like you're not supposed to be able to do that in one winter, right?
Well, it's tough to turn a team around like that. I know very few general managers that have been able to do it. The one guy that I think of off the top of my head, and his close friend, and unfortunately he has passed, is Kevin Towers. Mm-hmm. When he took over the Arizona Diamondbacks team, and they went from last to first. They ended up winning the division,
right,
and then going a pretty good ways into the playoffs. But no, I mean, and especially with a young team. I mean, this is a young team, and it was a team that was said to be in rebuilding mode, and I can't forget that because I'd never once in all the years that I've followed the Oakland A's ever heard Billy Beane say that this team, we are officially rebuilding.
Right.
I've never heard him say that. And so those words ring clear. And so no one could expect this team to be where they are at this point, and not even the people that put the team together.
And you also look around the AL West, and going into the season, I keep going back to how things looked in February and March. I mean, you were supposed to have a Seattle team that bolstered itself. You were supposed to have an Angels team with Artie Trout and Pujols and Cole Calhoun, and that added Shohei Ohtani, and they were supposed to be untouchable. Not to mention the defending World Series champions were in your division. I mean, that's also been, as much as the A's have been a storybook team and season so far, the story of the AL West has kind of helped open the door for the A's as well, too. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. Houston, starting the year, you knew that ultimately they were going to be one of the teams that you had to beat.
Yeah.
Seattle, I just, once again, I look back at their pitching, and I if you look at the division, I just didn't think that Seattle actually would place above Texas. Mm-hmm. Texas now is at the bottom of the pile,
right.
Which I thought that Texas would be. I thought that they would be a contender. Honestly, I thought that they would compete, contend, and give Houston a run for their money. I had Anaheim right there, and then I had the last two spots to be battled for once again between Seattle and the A's. And fortunately for the A's, they played the way that they have, which has put them in second place and actually competing for the top spot in the division. And the other teams just haven't been able to put it together.
If I asked you to pick out your favorite individual story of the A's this season, and you've watched this team as closely as anybody else, the inside of this group as much as anybody else who doesn't put on a uniform every day. The fact that you probably couldn't answer this question easily is a good thing, right? I mean, how many different choices are there between Jed Lowry, Jonathan Lucroy, Edwin Jackson? I mean, the list honestly goes on and on. Ramon Laureano. Like, can you even narrow it down to one?
Well, when a team is playing as well as they're playing,
there's a lot of stories.
There are a lot of stories. There is no one
right.
player. There is no one story, because at different points during the course of this season, everybody has had a role and has had an opportunity to step up to keep the train moving.
Yeah.
Everybody has. I guess if you want to look at, if you had to pick one start to finish, it would probably be Blake Trinan.
That's not even a guy I referenced there. Just goes to show you. Because for you, why is it Trinan?
Well, I mean, he's been the closer from the start.
Yeah.
If he's had a down month, I don't know which month it is. I mean, he's been good from
no hiccups so far, knock on wood.
March 29th to this point. We're now at September 9th.
Yeah.
And he has been the one constant from the first day to now. There have been no hiccups. He's been the closer. He's leading all closers in ERA.
Yep. All-star.
He's an all-star.
Yep.
And quite frankly, if he can't close games out, I'm not too sure where this team would be.
Certainly should be in the Cy Young conversation. We know that only, 9 closers, I think 9 relief pitchers have ever even won a Cy Young award since its inception. But obviously, I think he should be in the conversation. Let me go back to Laureano for a second. The guy's been in big league ball for a little bit more than a month. Like, help me describe him. Like, help me describe what you see in him so far.
Well, there have been so many nicknames for him. I mean, Noodles, Laser. I heard Piscotti describe him as a cannonball.
Yeah. They all work.
Yeah, the truth is, for one single player, he, since being inserted into the lineup, is probably the most exciting player that they have. He's been a defensive specialist. He's made great plays in the outfield, both catches and throws. And he's been a catalyst at the top of the lineup. He gets on base, steals bases. He's hit for power. He's been the one guy that has been in the middle of a lot of rallies for this team.
Yeah, no doubt.
And so he's just been an unbelievable performer for a short period of time, but for the short period of time, he's had huge impact.
Why'd you make the Tony Phillips reference about him the other day? Like, what's the strong connection? And honestly, to explain the story of Tony Phillips to maybe those who are a little bit young to know.
Are we talking about Laureano or are we talking about Pender?
Oh, I take it back. Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. Let's go to Chad Pender. That's who you made the Tony Phillips reference to. And it's just the energetic play everywhere type player that Chad Pinder is. And you know what? On the list of stories that we're touching on here, there's a Roberto Clemente nominee from the A's in Chad Pinder.
Yes. I mean, Chad Pinder has been a Tony Phillips type player. I mean, he's played center field, he's played left field, he's played right field, he's played second base, he's played shortstop, he's played some third. But where Tony was impactful was Tony was a really good offensive player, which Chad Pinder has been a very good offensive player.
He's got pop.
Yeah, he's hit for power. Yeah. He's driven in runs. He's hit for average. And for the amount of time and that Pinder has played, he's done a very good job. This team hasn't missed a beat. When the regular left fielder's not playing, if Chad Pinder's playing left field, you don't miss a beat. You don't miss a beat defensively. You don't miss a beat offensively. And that's how Tony Phillips was. Yeah. Tony Phillips left the Oakland A's going to Detroit to become an everyday player. And that's how successful he was as a utility player.
You see much of Sal Bando growing up?
I've seen the A's since 1968.
There you go. So you've seen him. You played with Carney Lansford. You saw a lot of Eric Chavez, obviously, being around baseball during his years. And, of course, you saw Josh Donaldson in recent years. Where does Matt Chapman stack up right now? I mean, hasn't even completed a full season of Big League Baseball, but where does he stack up already among those names at the hot corner for you?
Well, I mean, because he does not have the tenure yet.
Right. You don't know what he's capable of.
We don't know where he's going to finish up.
Right.
But coming in the door, this guy plays as well as or better. Now, I put Carney Lansford was a very good third baseman, made very, very few errors over there, made all the plays. Mm-hmm. Carney didn't have the flair for the great plays that you see Chapman make.
Right.
And Sal Bando and Carney Lansford, in my opinion, were similar type third basemen. Where Chapman places above those guys is one, arm strength, unbelievable arm strength. Carney had good arm strength, but Chapman is great arm strength.
Exceptional, yeah.
Chapman has the ability to play a deep third base, which actually improves his range, which none of the names that we just mentioned, Bando, Lansford, or Chavez, were capable of doing.
Right.
And so when you look at the ability to play a deep third base, improve range, which means that he's now taking away hits, Chapman has a chance to be the best of all A's third basemen. He has a chance to be the best third baseman in A's history.
Damn. I'm just letting that sink in for a second.
It's a fact.
I'm just letting it sink in. How do you start to separate, as the season winds down, regular season, goals from reality? Because all of a sudden, there's a taste of the West. Now, in reality, though, I think the A's are just happy to be in the postseason. You should be at least satisfied with that baseline level, considering that, again, we go back to the thoughts on this team out of spring, and they were probably not in that conversation. They were in be a winning record team, not necessarily a playoff team. So how do you see it? I mean, because you do want to get greedy. You don't know how many chances you're going to have like this. You don't know how many magical seasons you're going to have like this. You don't get to be on pace for a 95 win campaign every year. So now that we're here, how do you see it?
Well, I think you're hard pressed to tell a Matt Chapman that.
Yeah. Hey, don't go in the West. We're fine being in the playoffs. Yeah, no.
We're just fine being here.
He'll scoff at that.
I think that you have a hard time doing that as well as Jonathan Lucroy or Matt Olson.
Understandably so.
Yeah, I think you'd have a hard time telling those guys that, hey, now that you've made it, we're just happy that you're here.
Right.
They're not those kind of players.
Yeah.
I had an opportunity to be around Edwin Jackson for a long period of time, and he's not that type of pitcher. Trevor Cahill is not that type of pitcher. And more importantly, the man who manages this team is what sets the pace, the tempo, and the mood in that clubhouse, and he's not that type of manager.
Yeah.
I think that Bob Melvin believes that this team has an opportunity to win. I think he's been in the game long enough to understand that the primary thing is to get there, and once you get there, anything can happen.
Right.
And so, I may be premature in saying this. This team is going to be in the playoffs. And then I think that there's enough knowledge in the man that leads this team that they have an opportunity to win. Their strength is not their starting rotation. I'm not going to lead anybody to believe that. Their strength is the fact that they've got a bullpen that if you can even get 4 innings of outs, they can pitch the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th innings and win a baseball game.
So as for how the A's might get in, who they might face, I mean, do you really believe that, though? You just said it. It only matters to get in. Is there a hesitation toward a wild card game? Because a lot of A's fans listening to this are going back to 2014 already and say, oh, man, just don't put me through that type of game, that one and go on or one and done situation. It's not a series. It's literally just 9 innings plus of deciding it. Does it really matter how you get in, or can the A's do well if they get a wild card spot?
It doesn't matter how they get in. In my opinion, if you get in, then you're over the first hurdle. The reasons why this team has a chance to win, I just said, the depth of their bullpen.
Right.
And because of the depth of their bullpen, they're capable of beating anybody. On a given day, you beat anybody. In a one-game playoff, I kind of like their chances, especially with the depth of their bullpen.
Well, maybe at Yankee Stadium too, bullpen, but how about Oakland's offense in a ballpark like that?
The offense is going to be a great offense without a doubt. But playoff and offense, they kind of don't mix. Usually in the playoffs, offense is not what you're going to see. You're going to see really good pitching, and you're going to see really good defense is what you're going to see usually in a playoff. And so I'm not counting so much on the offense as much as I'm counting on great defensive plays and great defense and great pitching, whether it comes from the starter or whether it comes from the relievers. I think that the A's have an opportunity, a golden opportunity in a one-game playoff to beat the Yankees because their bullpen is so solid. You
said on TV a couple months back, actually now, these guys are ignorant.
I did say that.
In a good way.
Yes.
You're complimenting them and saying they don't know that they're not supposed to be doing this.
Ignorance is bliss.
Are they still ignorant?
I think that now they are aware. They're no longer out there just blindly doing what they were doing.
It's not, and nobody ever said it was a fluke, but if anybody ever did, they're proven wrong by now, right?
I think this is a true case of success breeding confidence.
This is 3 months of this success.
Yeah.
Now.
And it's definitely breeded confidence. The way these kids walk around, how they carry themselves, you listen to their interviews, the things that they say and how they say them. They're very respectful, but they're very confident about their ability to play this game and to play with anyone.
All right, couple random things to end it on. When there is a new ballpark in Oakland, how much will you miss the Coliseum? How will you be the last game at the Coliseum? Because like me, I know it holds a special place. And I'm not saying I'm promising tears. I'm confirming that will happen.
Well, quite frankly, the Coliseum that I played in and I remember as a kid left when Mount Davis came.
Yeah, I know.
So for me, that was a sad day.
The picket fence you used to look through.
Yeah.
Or
that was a sad day.
Yeah.
This Coliseum, I haven't pitched in. I've attended games here. But what's sad is that, and I know at the Yankee Stadium, the tradition of the Yankees still seems to have passed on to the new ballpark, but the proximity of the park is almost right next door.
Right, literally, yeah, it is.
If the new ballpark happens, when the new ballpark happens, and if if it happens where they're projecting it to happen, you've moved to a totally different part of town.
You're talking about Howard Terminal.
Yeah. And so I'll miss this old stadium. Obviously, I was a kid and I grew up in this ballpark, and there were a lot of days, man, when I was shagging down fly balls that were coming into the seats. And I remember, meeting Reggie Jackson as a kid, Ramon Webster at first base, Campy Campaneris, and the captain Sal at third, Blue Moon Odom, Vida, Ken Holzman, Catfish. I remember those guys when I was a kid. And so there's going to definitely be a feeling of sadness, but at the same time, you got to feel glad and happy for the community getting a new ballpark and opening a new page to A's history.
Do you prefer that the new ballpark be in one of the two locations, or do you, at this point, like me, I just want to get there?
Well, I want to get there, but
I want to do it right, but I also can't wait to get there.
I want to get there, but my preference, if they had a ballpark, would be to build it exactly where it is. Play 2 more years in the old stadium while you're building a new ballpark and a new stadium in that same Coliseum parking lot, and that would be my preference. And I think for all the right reasons. I mean, I don't want to get in a political crowd, but if you build a ballpark at the Coliseum and you want to bring a breath of fresh air, then that means that you're also investing your money in the community. And I grew up in East Oakland, and so now you're investing your money in the community, and I think that would be a shot in the arm for East Oakland.
Well, everything else aside, the one thing we can all agree on, that would be the easier place to logistically build at this point. There's clearly more hurdles at Howard Terminal than there is at the Coliseum. Right. Loaded question for you. Do you like doing this TV stuff?
Actually, I do like it. And I'm not, and I mean this.
You're not saying this because you're talking to me.
No, I mean this, and I mean this sincerely.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could do this with anyone else other than with you.
Oh.
And that's the truth. I mean, you make it relaxing. We have fun. And
we're also a winning season this time around.
Well, it's a winning season, but even when we played badly last year, it was fun because you were my partner and my host. And it just makes it easy. So when you ask, do I like it? I love doing it.
Yeah.
As long as I'm doing it with you.
Wow, I appreciate that.
Shooty and with with Bip when we get the opportunities to do it, because we have fun doing the show. And from a personal level, I get to talk about what I know. I mean, I know baseball. This is all I've ever done. And to talk about the game, to talk about it and try to be insightful to the people that are listening and watching our show is fun for me. I want to paint a picture for them to see what I see and how I see things. And hopefully it makes them and helps them to understand the game better.
Last thing here, I'll be hurt the day I get a text or a phone call from you saying, well, time's up. I've moved on to a new baseball opportunity because I know it'll be good for you if it happens or if not. But selfishly, obviously, I would miss having you here. So my question is, what would be the one thing that might pull you away? Like, is there something that you would be interested in doing ever again in baseball? I mean, you said it before. In fact, you said it today on TV. The only thing you haven't really done is managed. So is there anything along the lines that might interest you?
Well, I know managing is past me now. But, I mean, I've been intrigued. As you know, I had an opportunity to be a part of an ownership group with the Marlins.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know ownership, depending on where the team is. I doubt that I'd go east or even think about going east again to be in ownership of a baseball team. And so I think ownership would be something that would be intriguing and something that I'd have to consider and give great thought to. And that would probably be the one, huh? The one, yeah.
All right. Well, if you guys ever need a broadcaster, I know I'm in at least some standing with you, so you can buy the new team and I'm just kidding. You know I can't leave the A's.
And
Seriously, though? I'm like, honestly, even if you came to me and said, oh, I'll double everything. I'll give you this and that. Seriously? You know how I feel about these guys.
Yeah, I do
I'd have
know.
a hard time leaving the Oakland A's.
Green, man. If they peel you back,
I'd be like, do they do the Bernie lean out where your new team is, Stu? Because if not, I don't know if I can do it.
Might have to lure you away, Brody.
Hey, thanks for joining me, Stu, and I can't wait to hopefully cover some playoff games with you.
Well, shoot, we'll see what happens. We know one thing's for sure, though. These guys are going to be there,
Yes.
and believe me, anything can happen once you're there.